It was 1959, the golden age of westerns was riding high, and John Wayne was still the undisputed sheriff of the silver screen. But in Rio Bravo, all eyes weren't just on the Duke. A new face stormed into town, a sultry card dealer named Feathers, played by none other than Angie Dickinson, and she wasn't there just to play second fiddle. No, Dickinson brought a spark to the screen that made critics, audiences, and even hardened cowboys sit up and take notice. Before we dive into the movie's dusty streets and gunslinging glory, let's talk cast. John Wayne leads as Sheriff John T. Chance, flanked by a powerhouse ensemble. Dean Martin as the haunted deputy dude, pop idol Ricky Nelson as young gunslinger Colorado, Walter Brennan as the cantankerous Stumpy, and Ward Bond as stalwart Pat Wheeler. And then there's Angie Dickinson, just 27 years old, stepping into the spotlight with poise, sass, and just the right amount of flirtation. The plot is classic high noon tension. Sheriff Chance arrests Joe Burdett, a killer and the brother of a powerful rancher, and must keep him locked up until the U.S. Marshal arrives. But the gang outside is brewing trouble. The sheriff's allies, a drunk, a kid, an old man, and a mysterious woman, form a ragtag posse in what becomes a slow burn siege story that favors character over spectacle. Director Howard Hawks, who hadn't made a film in 4 years after the flop of Land of the Pharaohs, returned to reclaim his status. Filming began in May 1958 in Old Tucson, Arizona, a location famous for scorching heat and, during this shoot, a bizarre infestation of grasshoppers that fried on the hot set lights. Walking on set became a crunchy ordeal. Sets were built at 7/8 scale to make the actors look larger than life. A clever touch by Hawks, who controlled every detail. But even he couldn't dodge all conflicts. For instance, Hawks originally didn't want Ricky Nelson in the movie, finding him too lightweight. Yet Nelson's presence brought in a younger audience and an estimated $2 million bump at the box office. Dean Martin's casting was unconventional. His agent reached out and Hawks agreed to meet him at 9:30 a.m., after Martin had performed in Vegas until midnight. Martin flew out on his own dime and charmed the director. Hawks handed him the costume and the role, but Martin struggled with the emotional complexity of Dude, especially a scene requiring tears. Unsure of how to portray alcoholism, he phoned Marlon Brando for acting advice. Despite public perception, Martin's famous drinking image was more apple juice than alcohol. On Ricky Nelson's 18th birthday, Wayne and Martin gifted him a massive sack of steer manure and threw him in. It was a rite of passage and a classic prank from old school Hollywood. As for Dickinson, her character Feathers added emotional nuance and feminine firepower. The most talked about moment? The so-called steamy shave scene. Let's set the record straight. It's not steamy in the modern sense, but it simmers with subtle tension. Feathers offers to shave Chance, who declines with a cool, "I do my own shaving." The exchange brims with flirtation, humor, and the unspoken dynamic between a woman testing a man's armor and the man choosing to leave it on. Dickinson later recalled this scene as pivotal, defining their relationship and her character's place in the story. Before we continue, a quick shout out to Perfect Fifth. They've got some incredible old school music inspired graphic tees like this VU meter design capturing that perfect analog vibe, or this melting vinyl sunset, a minimalist ode to the golden era of vinyl. And this Star Strings and Stripes, a rock and roll twist that's perfect for the Patriots. And for Golden Throwback viewers, they're giving you an exclusive 20% off with the code THROWBACK20. Check out the link in the description. Now, back to the video. Behind the scenes, things weren't always so smooth. Character actor Harry Carey Jr. was listed in the credits, but never appears on screen. Why? According to film lore and Carey himself, he addressed Hawks as Howard instead of Mr. Hawks during early filming. Hawks, already wary due to Carey's rumored drinking issues, took offense and axed his scenes. But Carey still got his paycheck and screen credit. The film's production hit a few bumps. The final action set piece, a warehouse explosion, had to be shot twice. The first attempt was sabotaged by prop staff who filled it with colored paper, making it look like a fireworks show rather than a Western showdown. Then there's Walter Brennan as Stumpy, a role that became iconic. His limp voice and humor added much-needed levity. Brennan later shared that people expected him to limp in real life after the film, and his musical moment alongside Martin and Nelson singing My Rifle, My Pony and Me was actually adapted from the theme of Red River, another Hawks-Wayne collaboration. John Wayne's hat tells its own story. Most of the film, the brim is turned up, making him look a bit softer, more approachable. But in key moments, it's down. That's when the tough guy comes out. Wayne, 51 during filming, saw this role as the start of his middle-aged era. His last 4 films had flopped, post The Searchers, and he realized audiences wanted him to just be John Wayne, so that's what he gave them. This was also the 22nd and final film that Wayne and Ward Bond made together. Bond died later that year, making Rio Bravo a poignant final chapter in their long-running collaboration. When the movie premiered in 1959, it was met with critical and commercial acclaim. It grossed over $10.5 million, making it the top Western of the year. In Italy, it became a sensation, laying the groundwork for the spaghetti Western boom of the 60s. Quentin Tarantino calls it one of his favorite films, even using it as a litmus test in dating. If his date doesn't like Rio Bravo, there's no second date. In 1976, footage from Rio Bravo was reused in flashbacks for Wayne's final film, The Shootist. That's how iconic this film became. It echoed through the rest of Wayne's career. And when Wayne's personal script went up for auction, it sold for $20,000. Nearly every page was folded in half, a habit the Duke had for every script he used. And Angie Dickinson? Rio Bravo launched her. She wasn't just the new girl. She was the unexpected flame in a town full of testosterone. Her chemistry with Wayne, her confident charm, and that legendary shave scene made sure that everyone remembered Feathers. Dickinson would go on to a legendary career, but it all started here, in a dusty jailhouse playing cards with destiny. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite moment from Rio Bravo? Was it the shootouts, the music, or Angie Dickinson lighting up the screen as Feathers? Let's talk classic Westerns in the comments.